when you learn to create the safest container for yourself possible before entering a sexual experience, you will be able to feel more intense levels of pleasure, and you will be able to surrender more to that pleasure when you are in that sexual experience. Hear me out. Hello, beautiful being. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. You are most welcome in this sacred and safe space with me. I am a shamanic practitioner, and one of my specialities is sexuality. And it's really a mission of mine here on this planet to help beings become sexually liberated so that they can reclaim pleasure, which is their birthright. So I'm really happy that you clicked on this video and that you are here. I have been trained in sexual shamanic work, which is really body-based work to listen to the different consciousness in different areas in our body. I work one-on-one with clients who have been sexually abused or who have sexual shame. And I also hold ceremonies for beings, for groups of people to express their sexuality and to be liberated with that in a safe and conscious container. Now, we'll never be able to create an experience that is 100% safe, but really it is my mission to help teach you how to create the safest experience for you possible so that you can minimize any abuse on the body, crossing any boundaries, or anything that you do in a sexual experience that doesn't feel okay for you. Because sexual energy is really the most powerful energy on this planet, and I want you to be able to embrace it fully. And that requires meeting some level of consciousness and doing the work to be more aware of this beautiful and powerful thing that really has both the power to completely elevate us, but also can really hurt us as well. So this video is really for people who have never entered a sexual experience before, and it's also for people who have had sexual experiences for over 40 years. There's really something to learn here. So in this video, we are going to talk about sexual conversations to have before you enter a sexual experience in order to create more consciousness and awareness of the activity you are going to do with a partner or with a set of partners in a given space. And so it's important for me to say that what I will teach you now is actually not something that I created. It's something I learned at the International School of Temple Arts and by the lead facilitator, Laurie, who has had many years, a whole lifetime of beautiful experience in tantra and sexual shamanic work. So I will put links below all about that so you can learn more. So I'm going to give you an acronym, and I'm going to talk about each letter so you know what they mean, so that when you go on a date with someone or you're going to agree to have sex with someone, you can talk about this very juicy and beautiful conversation before you enter that space. But number one, that's very key before I get into this whole thing, is that if you feel like you cannot have this conversation with a partner, if it doesn't feel safe to bring this up, then you should not be having sex with them. Because if you don't feel safe to communicate with them, then your body will not feel safe to fully let them penetrate or to penetrate. Your body won't feel good enough to surrender to your pleasure. And it's quite a vulnerable thing to get naked and to exchange sexual energy with someone. So no matter how attracted and turned on you are by them, it's important to have a connection between what your mind is saying, what your heart is saying, and what your pussy and cock consciousness are saying, because they all have their own approach to things, and it's important to be in check with all these areas in your body. Okay, let's dive into it. So the acronym is RBDSM. Okay, so I'm just gonna go one by one with each letter. I also like to note that when you have the conversation with this person, you can really talk about any points. It doesn't have to go in this direction. It's just we provide you this acronym so it's easy for you to remember. Okay, so first, letter R. R stands for relationships. So what this means is when you are talking to your sexual partner, you ask them, what relationships do I need to know about in your life? Are you seeing multiple sexual partners? Are you celibate at the moment? Really anything that can kind of get in the way of your relationship with that person. Are you polyamorous? Are you monogamous? What is your overall relationship status. So for an example, I am someone who is romantically and emotionally monogamous, but I do like to dive into sexual polyamory. So that is something that I would like the person to be aware of before we go into a sexual experience. Because the thing is that in sexuality, you create a cord with one another, and I will make another video about that. But when you exchange sexual energy, you create a sort of union and you create a sort of connection. So it can be very hard to detach from that, especially if you're in a female body. You can tend to get really attached to a man who penetrates you. So it's important to know what their relationship status is, whether they're in love with someone else or they're polyamorous, and to see if you match on the same values, and then really think to yourself, is this a good idea, before I actually let them exchange sexual energy with me. Another thing about R is, what kind of relationship are they looking for? So this may be scary to ask when you're engaging with someone for the first time sexually, but if that person just wants a casual relationship and you're looking for something deep and profound, you're looking for a husband, a wife, really sit with yourself and ask yourself, is this a good idea to exchange my sexual energy to create a sexual cord with this person if they're never going to give me what I truly, truly want? Okay, letter B. Boundaries. So this is all about your boundaries. It's in the word. And again, I will be posting a deeper video on how to understand your boundaries, so it's okay if you don't really know. But when you are talking to someone for the first time, you may have a set of boundaries that is very different than if you have been with someone for many years. But nonetheless, we all have boundaries. And as Laurie Handler's taught me, she calls bullshit when someone says that they don't have any boundaries. Because actually, if you are listening to your body deep enough, you have boundaries. So this could be something as simple as, I don't want penetration for our first sexual encounter, or it can be something as complex as everything's okay except anal, or anything like this. Or it could be, I don't like to be touched super hard, I don't like to be choked. Just anything that you feel is important to say. The next letter is D, which is desires. So this is what you desire with that specific person and what you really like to experience in a sexual space. So they can kind of get to know a bit of who you are before you go into this very unknown territory, right? Because everybody's different. Everybody likes different things. And actually, when you are speaking to someone about what you desire, it gets a very juicy conversation, and it's honestly really, really fun. And so in my experience, when I've had these conversations, I tend to bounce back and forth between boundaries and desires, because as we begin to talk more about our desires, a new boundary may pop up and then we want to touch base on that boundary. But it's really, really great to let the person know your boundaries and to be very clear about that. And if they seem like someone who is willing to cross your boundaries, then that should not be a person that you should enter a sexual space in. When you set boundaries, and I know we're going back to B, but when you set boundaries, this is really a way for your body to feel like you have a sense of control and that there is safety. Now, I'm not saying that the masculine can't take the lead and be in control, but your body and the feminine wants to feel like, okay, I know that all the baseline stuff is safe for me and that they are listening to the oracle inside me and based on my needs and wants. And now I can let that masculine lead. Now I can surrender. So that at least comes from my perspective in a female body. So back to desires, really take the time to, whether you want to pause the video now or after this video, to feel into what your desires are. And your desires will change based on every person, and your boundaries will change based on every person, because these things come with trust. With a new partner, when you have this conversation, you may have so many boundaries, but if you're gonna have this conversation with a partner you've been with for 3 years, which I totally recommend to resurface back with this conversation consistently, your boundaries and your desires will absolutely change. So the boundaries and desires amongst all of these are really important to upkeep when you are in a partnership and you're with them for 5 months, 2 years, 10 years, because boundaries and desires do evolve and change over time. Okay, so the next letter is S, which is sexual health. Okay, so this is really important for people who are experiencing new partners. This is all about, when is the last time you've been tested? What is your birth control methods? Do you use condoms? Just anything along this line. Because I know it's important for me to know when they've gotten tested, how many partners they've had since they've been tested, and what that whole status is before I am willing to give my body and my pussy to that person. And it's also important for my sexual partners to know if I'm taking birth control or not. So it's important to have that conversation before things are getting really heated and your rationality and your logic is out the window and all you can think about is pleasure and your pussy and cock and you're totally in that consciousness. It's important to really set the structure, set the stage, set the tone before you enter that really heated moment where we can make a lot of stupid decisions. And by stupid decisions, I don't mean to shame that. I don't mean to shame myself for all the times I've made stupid decisions. But in a way, I could have chosen better if I had had the conversation before I was way too heated with my sexual energy. Because like I will keep mentioning throughout this video, sexual energy is the most powerful energy and it can really overtake us. So it's important to have this discussion before we enter, because you might be in a situation where condoms are really important to you and then you don't have that conversation, you're heated in the moment, and then the man says, oh, I don't use condoms and I don't have a condom on me. And at that moment you're like, oh, well, I really want you, so even though it is my value to use condoms, I'm just gonna let it slide this one moment. But actually, if you let it slide one moment, you may catch a disease forever, and that is just the reality of what can happen. So I don't mean to scare you, it's not about that, and it's definitely not about shaming you at all, and not shaming anybody who has contracted a sexual disease. That is not what this space is about, but I'm just here to educate you so that you can really enter this space with the most consciousness that you can. Okay, so the next letter is M, which is meaning. Okay, so if you're going in this with a partner for the first time, this may be the most uncomfortable letter, I think, of them all with a new partner, but I still think it's really important. So M meaning means that what is the meaning if you and I engage in this sexual activity? So is this going to make us be in a relationship? Because some people do really believe that once you sexually engage, that means you should be exclusive with everyone else and that we're now in a union and we're in a partnership. It's important to know where the partner is at and what sex means to them. Because someone else may say, oh, sex is a very casual thing for me. I don't take it very seriously. So for me, it just means that we're casually having sex. And if you are someone that doesn't like that and you take sex very sacredly and seriously, then you could take a step back and feel like, okay, I'm someone who takes sex very seriously and it really means something, and then this person is very casual about it. Nobody is right or wrong. Nobody is better or worse. We're just a mismatch. And it doesn't really make sense to engage in sexual activity if we're never going to meet on that same frequency. Because if I have a tendency of getting attached and I want a relationship, and this person doesn't want a relationship and is really about casual sex, then it's probably not the best idea to engage sexually. Okay, T. T stands for trauma. Now, this may be a very vulnerable thing to talk about if you're engaging with someone sexually for the first time, but I really feel this is one of the most important, because the sexual partner needs to know where you are at and what kind of traumas can be triggered in a sexual space. Because like I keep mentioning in this whole video, sexual energy is the most powerful energy, which means that it can really trigger and open up so many different things inside of ourselves. So if you have had sexual abuse or you've had experienced some sort of sexual trauma, it's really important to just let your partner know. You don't need to get into the full details unless you feel like sharing and unless they ask, but it's good that they know that this can be a very vulnerable space for you. Or if you're someone who hasn't experienced it, that's also good for them to know. It's really important to be aware of the kinds of things your partners have been through so that when you're in this space and the sexuality is getting really heated, you can still have that level of consciousness and awareness, and to not give your power away to your sexual energy, but rather stay in that center, stay in that awareness, and so that you can keep the other person safe. And also, they can have any sort of reactions that can happen in the bedroom. So even if you are the ones talking about your sexual trauma and they're receiving it, it will make you feel safer when you're entering that space, because you're like, okay, they know that I've been through this. And that is just so much better than going in a space where they have no idea. Okay, and the last letter is A, which is aftercare. Now, aftercare is all about what you need after you have sex. Some people really require alone time after sex. They don't like to cuddle. They don't like body contact. They need to shower. They need to be on their own. And then some people, like myself, really likes to stay connected because we just share this vulnerable space and I'm energetically sensitive and I need to cuddle with you. I need to be with you. I need to feel you. So some people are really different. It's important to know how they are after sex and how the aftercare is needed, so that when that time comes and you have sex and now it's over, and if your partner pulls away from you, it's going to hurt a lot less when you go into the situation knowing that they need their alone time after sex. Or it's great if your partner tells you, hey, I need you to take care of me after sex, I need you to hold me, then your partner has that awareness and they will likely try to put better effort to do that for you, to give you what you need. So this is great. And I feel like if you have a mismatch on the kind of aftercare you need, just have a conversation about it. I don't think it's something that should be a definite no. If you're totally mismatched, you can really create your own judgment with that before going into the space. Or even if you go in knowing that you have a mismatch on the kind of aftercare, you can at least prepare to give yourself what you need after the sexual experience. Okay, beautiful beings, I'm going to now stop talking because all my YouTube videos now seem to be incredibly long. So of course there are 1,000 and a million things that I want to say about this, but I'm just going to end it here. Check out some of my other videos on this topic to learn more, and please comment anything down below with any questions that you have, and I will try to answer them or post a video about them, because I'm really here in service for you. And let me know if any of this triggered you. I noticed that on some of my other videos I'm posting that some beings are getting triggered with some of the stuff I have to say, because sexuality is a very sensitive topic. It's very taboo in this world, and I'm here to heal that taboo, and I'm here to make it not such a sensitive topic so that we can all be sexually liberated. So this is really a safe container. Please comment what you like, and I am here in service for you. Okay, much love, beautiful beings. Mwah. Oh, I forgot to say, if any of you go and have this conversation, please let me know how it goes. I'm very curious. I know for myself, it just makes everything so much juicier. I'm able to open up so much more and to trust that person so much more when I go into the experience. So have so much fun with this conversation. You don't need to be like so serious and strict about everything. Be very playful, be very flirtatious, and just have a good time. And have a good time while simultaneously taking care of yourself, because that's what this is about. Okay, much love to you all. Mwah.